Executive producer Brian Herzog. Presents Bobby Clark. Education, current events, and topics that affect you.
Welcome to Let's Talk About It. Our guest today is Mary Stein. She's Assistant Library Director at the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Welcome, Mary.
Welcome, Miss Bobby, because we have a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we're going to start with some general questions about the East Baton Rouge Parish Library.
Sure.
Like, how many libraries are there in East Baton Rouge Parish?
Well, right now we have 14 conveniently located branches. And by conveniently located, I mean they're in the northern part of the parish, the southern part of the parish, east and west, and all around the town. And they're all open 7 days a week. They all open even on Sunday. They're all open into the evening. And that's really helpful for people who live such busy, busy lives. So whether you're a student finally getting off from school and then your extracurricular activities and then you need to dash to the library for something, well, the main library is open until 10 o'clock at night. And
so you're able to accommodate them?
Yes, we surely are. And college students, career businessmen and women, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, we have something for you at a time that's convenient for you.
Well, how do you determine the size of the libraries in various communities?
Well, Miss Bobby, this kind of rolled out over a 30-year period. We have what's called a capital improvements plan, and basically, way back in the day, in the 80s, our previous director, Mr. John Richard, worked with the Library Board of Control to kind of figure out where library services were lacking throughout the parish. And at that time, pretty much the Goodwood location and the Carver branch were the southernmost libraries for the entire parish. So once the dedicated property tax passed in 1986, the first order of business was to think about the area that was in most need of library services, which was that Jones Creek area. Mm-hmm. And so we built a regional there, which is bigger than anything we had at the time, except for the main library and River Center downtown. And then we built Bluebonnet and then Greenwell Springs. And then the next 10-year tax period, we went to every library that already existed and gave it a makeover. And by makeover, I really mean a do-over, because these branches were all replaced. What was a 2,000 square foot building became a 12,000 square foot building, or a 14,000 square foot building, or even larger. Mm-hmm. And with one exception, the Delmont Library, we loved the location, and it had been fairly freshly built in 1984. So on that one, we kind of closed it down for a while. People may remember the bookmobile parked out front, and we basically doubled it in size and changed the orientation.
And it is still not large enough.
No library is ever large enough, Miss Bobby.
I will tell you, I visit the Delmont, and really, folks are parking on the side of the street.
Yes.
Not even enough parking.
That's right. And we've worked out a deal with our good friends Breck, where our patrons can park at Breck, but yes, and that's one of the sacrifices you make when you build inside of a neighborhood or a community. Mm-hmm. You're kind of landlocked. So we have Tony's on one side, we have the Delmont Mall on the other, and then we have Breck on the other side. So people are making do, because some people still ride their bikes or walk to the library, and then people do ride the cars, but every library, we wish there was more parking at every library. We wish there were more meeting rooms and more spaces for people to just enjoy.
So there's no hope of that parking lot getting larger over there at Delmont?
Well, some land would have to be made available for that to happen. So, we always have our eye out for opportunity, shall we say.
Yes.
And so in our next taxing period, which will take place in 2015, we're kind of finishing all of our projects with the new main library finally opening in January. The River Center branch almost being ready to go into the next phase of design planning.
Now, where's the River City Library going to be?
It's going to be exactly where it is
Okay.
because that's prime real estate. We can't do any better than where we
Great,
are.
great.
But what it's going to do is be replaced with a 4-story building, just like now, but it'll be 4 stories that function for today's library. Because, of course, when we built the old main library and the old River Center Library, we didn't have electric typewriters. And in fact, electric typewriters came in when I came to the library 30 years ago. So a lot of the things that we expect our new libraries
Yes.
to work with, because they're really big pieces of equipment, just can't be accommodated with the old facility. So it's going to come down and be replaced with a building with good sight lines, good infrastructure for technology, good infrastructure for the practicality of energy efficiency and things like that, just as we've done with the new main library, and in fact, just as we've done with every branch that we've built in the last 30 years, all built as best as we could at the time that we built them. And Miss Bobby, one thing I want to tell you is, unlike most libraries in the world, these buildings are all paid for the day we open the door.
Now, that is excellent.
It is excellent, and people in Baton Rouge should be very proud because you don't see this in other places.
No, you don't.
No bonds or indebtedness. Our grandchildren will not be paying for these buildings. They were paid for slowly over time, and the balance is you don't get to build everything at once.
So how is that done? Is that a tax?
It's all through that exact same dedicated property tax. That
Okay.
pays everything. Operations, it pays for the books, it pays for the computers, it pays for the salaries of the staff, it pays for the roofs over our head, and re-roofing when that becomes necessary. And it also, a little bit of that tax every year is put aside for the capital improvements program. And
That
then
is awesome.
it's really good. And again, the people of East Baton Rouge Parish should be so proud, because when I travel and talk to other library staff members around the United States or people from other parts of the country and even the world, you know, they understand that we're like the Dave Ramsey of libraries. We live within our means. If we can't afford it, we don't do it. But it's just carefully stewarded over time.
That's beautiful.
And so you and I are the benefits of that as citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish.
Beautiful. Well, let's talk about the new library, the new Goodwood Library.
Oh, and let's emphasize good there, because it is good.
When I first walked in, I had no conception of what I would see. But that open concept, it was like, wow, am I in Baton Rouge?
That's right.
It is so beautiful.
That's right. The building, even though it's large, it's twice as large as the old main
And
library.
what's the square footage?
It's right under 129,000 square feet if you count the thickness of the walls.
Okay.
So it's bigger, almost by twice as big than the old library, but it doesn't feel like you're in an airport terminal or anything. And there are big soaring spaces with really high ceilings, but again, it doesn't feel cold or sterile. It feels warm and inviting.
It
and
is so nice.
Oh, Miss Bobby, the play of light in that building, because the foundation of reading is light. Everything goes
Yes.
back to light. And this building, such care was taken by our architects to make sure there was natural light. And in fact, the entire building is as long as a football field, but the entire north side of it is one big glass wall so that you, our patrons, can look out onto the
Yes.
lovely Independence Park, because our good partners at Breck have wonderful gardens, oak groves. They have plans for the future to develop along this area, and it's magnificent.
Well, we need to take a break here, Mary, and we'll be right back.
Sponsored by Prepare for the ACT with the online ACT Mastery Home Study Course. The broadcasting for this television program has been a service of Metro 21. Another Herzog Entertainment production. Do you want Want to work in films? Go to Herzog.com. Click on Jobs in the Film Industry. Signing up is free. Check us out online at Herzog.com. Go to BRB Network TV or Vision of Grace. Are you in an online community? Stay connected with Brian Herzog on Facebook. It's time to make the connections.
And welcome back to Let's Talk About It. Our guest is Mary Stein, Assistant Library Director for East Baton Rouge Parish Library. And we were talking, Mary, about the new Goodwood Library.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now we know the square footage. Describe some of the various rooms.
Oh, Miss Bobby, the spaces are truly fun and fabulous because, of course, we thought about every age group, and in fact, we got input from every age group. Children told us what they wanted in their room, and they said they wanted a circus or an amusement park, and they wanted a roller coaster to deliver the books. Now, we didn't put a roller coaster to deliver the books, but we kind of put a roller coaster of light on the ceiling and wonderful swirls in the carpet.
Yes.
And stars hold up the ceiling, and the light changes in that room, wonderful colored lights, almost like you're inside a lava lamp.
I have to tell you, I was sitting on the bench at the entryway, and lo and behold, the kids are almost climbing over me
To play
because
tic-tac-toe.
that's right, so that they could see the lights change.
That's right. Even the seating that we provided, it's kind of like a mood lamp for your
Yes.
body. But yes, there's lights everywhere to engage. It's very much an experience library.
Absolutely.
So when
Absolutely.
the children go in their space, it's wonderful colors. There's things for the youngest to do with manipulatives that are so important for the growing mind. The preschoolers have their section. The tweens have their section where they could be cool.
Let's talk about the teenage section.
Oh, the teenage room. It's the bomb. The inspiration for the teen room was we wanted to make it as cool as the Apple Store. And we asked teens what they wanted, and they picked the color palette, and they decided that they wanted a quiet room as well as some collaborative study rooms. And their activity room, we can do anything in that activity room, from play a video game tournament to have a poetry reading to have the ACT practice test. So
Okay.
wonderful furniture that fits every kind of slouch or sit that a teenager might want to do.
And the seating.
The seating is to die for. I have a chair that, it's a stool that looks like Cousin It from the old TV syndicated show, but it's as if there was a Pilates ball in the top of the stool, and you balance on it.
Yes,
And then we
I've
have,
sat on it already.
It's comfortable. It's good for your posture.
Very, very.
And then we have a chair that's kind of like a slingshot. It's called the Fit, and immediately people gravitated to that. It's kind of like a hammock that you sit in.
Is that the green, the light green?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
And it is so comfortable. I have had adults get in that chair trying it out, and it was hard to make them leave. It's not that they couldn't get out, they wouldn't get out.
Yes.
And then there's chairs that kind of move or swivel, and there's ottomans. So for the teenagers, we wanted the feel, again, of cool as the Apple Store and as welcoming as if you were in a student union in a university.
Yes.
But for teens, they even have their own laptop bar, and they have their own vending machines, and so it can truly be their little activity center for all things, whether it's research, computer use, casual reading, meeting their friends, working on the dreaded school project.
Yes.
And all that can take place there, plus the fun programs that we provide for them.
And I understand it's soundproofed, huh?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So if they get a little loud,
That's
it
right.
won't disturb the rest of the library.
That's right. Everything belongs in its place.
Yes.
But speaking of loudness, one of the things people have asked us for over the last 10 years, besides the ability to drink coffee in the library, and we're working on that one, is a quiet space. Because libraries are not quiet anymore. They're very busy, active spaces.
Yes.
So we've put a quiet room in on the second floor, and that's the
Oh.
shh room, no talking. And in that room, people have gradually, in the few days that we've been open, because it's only been a few weeks now, the chairs have started to migrate into their natural position as people find their spot.
Wow.
And it's wonderful. Now, there's a computer commons on the second floor for adults. There's a technology lab.
Now be a bit more specific. What is Computer Commons?
Well, in one of the big important uses of libraries these days is not just about the books and not just about meeting room space and free classes, but also the ability to bridge what's called the digital divide and make the world of the computer accessible to people, because in Louisiana many people don't have computers.
So the computers were all excuse me, on a wall.
Yes.
And in a little aisle.
Yes.
So now they're on the second floor.
Yes, ma'am. They're all together so
Okay.
that we can help people a little bit easier.
Yes.
They used to be scattered all over the place. And this way, we can help the people that most need it and then leave the people alone who don't need any help. And then right next door is the technology lab, where we will have regular classes, just like we do at our branches.
Beautiful.
Free classes on everything from how to get started on the internet. There are people who've never had an email account, to more elaborate things like how to book your vacation, or how to get started on eBay, or how to do things on a digital camera. So different kinds of classes that we provide, of course, for free in that technology lab. And there's another space on the adult floor, and that is not yet filled. It's waiting to receive the genealogy collection
Oh, yes.
and the archive. So the archives is going to move up from the downtown library at River Center, where it's been on the 4th floor for many years, and the genealogy collection is going to move over from Bluebonnet. And then finally,
they're all coming to Goodwood?
together. And so they'll join their
Interesting.
friends, the Louisiana Vertical File and our reference collection for Louisiana materials and our microfilm collection. And so finally, for a researcher, it'll all be in one place. And again,
Interesting.
in that genealogy collection, we have collaborative study rooms, because often genealogists come with a friend or a cousin.
Yes.
And this way they can have some kind of study rooms. It's kind of a more collegiate experience there. And they can spread out on their tables and even grow their family tree on the wall and plug into the laptop.
Are you
Yeah, they can
serious?
plug into it's not laptops, it's the big monitors on the wall, because these days, Miss Bobby, there's often a digital component to everything. And so
Yes.
everywhere in our building, there's a way to plug in, to plug on, to do something, whether you've got things built into the wall, all the way to the giant TV. It's not a giant TV, it's a giant LED screen that's going onto the plaza. That'll be 17 feet wide.
Now, is that in what I call the auditorium as you walk from the garden? That large area there?
I have a large meeting room that's almost ready. It will hold 300 people, and it has built-in projection equipment. But the LED screen is on the outside of that room, facing the plaza, so that we could do nighttime movies, we could do tailgate parties.
Are you serious?
I am deadly serious. And we could have commercials for Breck and for the library. We could show infomercials for the library.
Well, hold that thought. We've got to take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Sponsored by Prepare for the ACT with the online ACT Mastery Home Study Course. The broadcasting for this television program has been a service of Metro 21. Another Herzog Entertainment production. Do you want to work in films? Go to Herzog.com. Click on Jobs in the Film Industry. Signing up is free. Check us out online at Herzog.com. Go to BRB Network TV or Vision of Grace. Are you in an online community? Stay connected with Brian Herzog on Facebook. It's time to make the connections.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It with our guest, Mary Stein with East Baton Rouge Parish Library. And we're talking about the new Goodwood Library, which is absolutely awesome. And if you have not been, you owe it to yourself to go. You will not be disappointed. And Mary, we were talking about the large conference room and the outdoor theater. Oh my, that is just the bomb.
Some really good spaces for
Yes.
different kinds of events, whether it be the symphony or poetry slam or a fashion show. I already have some bookings for the large meeting room that holds 300 people to do things like a luncheon for their volunteers. Now, of course, we don't cater at the library, but we have a hospitality suite so that the caterer could come in and take advantage of that. Now, I mentioned people want to have coffee in the library. Well, our good friends at Breck are building the Cyber Cafe. That's going to be on the
Cyber
other
Cafe.
side of the plaza.
Yes.
That's right. So you'll be able to have your coffee, bring it on into the library, go on up to the 3rd floor and go to the rooftop terrace and just sit yourself down there or in the north courtyard or in one of the casual reading areas, not in the computer lab, sorry.
No, you
and
don't
not
want
in
them in there.
genealogy, but in other places.
Not around the computers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Computers and liquid don't mix.
No, they don't.
But there'll be many other spaces where you can enjoy that coffee, and the teenagers are already enjoying the fruits of the vending machines. So they're really starting to make the library feel at home, and it's just been a few weeks.
I know. And they are loving it.
They are.
Yes.
People come in going, wow, just like you said.
Yes.
And the neat thing is when they leave, they're still smiling.
Yes. It's that kind of a building.
Right.
It really is.
Now, it's going to take us a while to get everything else done because we're building it in phases. We've just moved out of the old building. We have to tear the old building down.
Yes.
And then just wait for the parking lot to be developed. So in the meantime, again, our good friends at Breck, we're sharing the parking lot at Independence Theater, which is where if you were wheelchair accessible, that'd be the route you would want to take.
They're getting some exercise.
Yes.
That's what it is.
It's a park. That's right. Remember,
yes,
it's a park.
Indeed. That's a nice walk.
That's right. And from the
Yes.
Botanical Garden Center, it's a
Yes.
shorter walk, though there are a few stairs to negotiate to come into the building. But that space is available. And then as soon as possible, our wonderful contractors are going to give us at least some of the parking. So as soon as we can tear down Old Main Library, that eastern portion of the parking lot will be the first thing on the priority list.
Okay.
And completing the plaza. I'm anxious to see my giant LED monitor go up there.
And how large is it?
17 feet across.
Woo!
So
that's serious.
I hope you should be able to see it from Goodwood, even though it's a big parking lot that we're building and it's way back from the road. I want a picture of you peeking out from behind a book.
Yes.
And you and a whole bunch of other Baton Rougeans. So
Yes.
that'll be our next project to work on this spring.
Oh, that is so nice. Well, what else do you want to tell me about the library system or any other plans for the library?
Well, first of all, I want to brag that we were top-rated, starred library in Library Journal, which again, not every library gets that rating, and this is the second year in a row we've had our 3 stars. So I'm keeping them.
And the library is paid for.
Yes, and that library is paid for, as are everyone. So that's really special. But there's so much other. We talk about the bricks and mortar. That's what people think of when they think of a library. They think of books and they think of a building. But increasingly, people are also thinking of the digital library.
Yes.
Because that's open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And through our website, ebrpl.com, which is just our initials, it's very simple, you can do almost anything you can do in a real library. Maybe not to the extent, but it's enough to get you through an ice storm. So you can download ebooks, you can download e-audiobooks, you can download music, you can watch independent films, you can see all of the movies that are up for all of those awards. Since Baton Rouge is becoming such a trendy town for
Yes.
cinema, you can see all those independent films that we would never have in a theater here. You can download magazines, and I'm talking everything from The Economist to traveling into the south of France, fun magazines, magazines in French and Spanish, magazines for children, magazines for teens, bride magazine. We always struggle with the bride magazines get checked out and the bride does not return it until after the wedding. So finally, they're all there. But we also have things for online learning. We have something called Learning Express. If I mentioned the ACT a while ago, there are online practice tests you can take. It's structured just like the ACT. You can time yourself, then you can check your answers and see how you did. There's the online SAT, but there's also online practice tests for professional careers, the praxis, nursing.
And also for
aides.
foreign languages, huh?
Foreign languages. I've got 55 languages for teens and adults, and children can learn through Muzzy. So if you wanted to, you could learn to speak Pirate, or you could learn to speak Farsi. You know, it's completely up to you what you want to do. We also have some wonderful tools for those who are real into techie. The technology world is always changing, and when you buy software, it never comes with a manual anymore. Well, we have these in the cloud, so they're never going to be stolen from your desk. You can always access them in our Safari Tech Online database. So if you had the latest version of Outlook Express and don't know what to do with it, or you bought SharePoint, or you're struggling with GarageBand at home, we have something called Atomic Learning, and then Safari Tech, where you can either get a video tutorial or a text tutorial to help you figure out what it is you need to do. And it's always available for you. So that's just tip of the iceberg.
This is awesome.
It is awesome.
Yes, yes. And in Baton Rouge.
It's right. And
Yes.
our patrons deserve this.
Yes, absolutely.
And let me tell you, they use it too.
Well, good. That's important. That's very important.
Now, we have wonderful programs, too. That's something you can't do with the digital library. I mean, you can take a leisure class online through the digital library, but there won't be any other humans in that digital classroom with you at your house. But in the building, you could come in for programs on the Affordable Care Act, Ask a Lawyer programs, of course things like story time, but also serious programs, fun programs. We'll do everything from the zombie prom to the civil rights movement. We want to appeal to different tastes, different ages, different interests. So we're often hosting programs that people in the community have volunteered to do. We host wonderful performers, especially in the summer. I've seen everything from stilt walkers. Greyhawk Perkins is coming next month. He's a Native American storyteller who will do things at a variety of branches. We're hosting the African American Read-In the month of February. So wonderful programs, free of charge, for every age and interest, and at every
And I was
location.
going to ask you about the conference room. Is there a fee for those?
There is never a fee if you're a nonprofit organization. So there's a meeting room process, there's an online form,
But for-profit can use them also, right?
we have not done that in the past. But
Oh,
now that
okay.
we have our new building, by March, I can tell you that we will have rolled out a little price list that for-profit people could use, or people who want to have a closed program. Maybe you're a nonprofit, but you're going to have a ticketed event. That's not a free and open to the public kind of thing. There would be a charge for something like that. And I've already had one person approach me about having a wedding on the roof. So
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, I want to thank you. This has been so informative. And to my viewing audience, you have got to go to Goodwood Library. It is the bomb. Thank you so much.
thank you.
And we've enjoyed it, and I think that we will definitely see loads of folks coming to visit you.
We can handle it.
Yes. And to my viewing audience, we'll be right back.
Sponsored by Prepare for the ACT with the online ACT Mastery Home Study Course. The broadcasting for this television program has been a service of Metro 21. Another Herzog Entertainment production. Do you You want to work in films? Go to Herzog.com. Click on jobs in the film industry. Signing up is free. Check us out online at Herzog.com. Go to BRB Network TV or Vision of Grace. Are you in an online community? Stay connected with Brian Herzog on Facebook. It's time to make the connections.
And welcome back to Let's Talk About It. Our guest is Craig Herring. He's the developer of the ACT Mastery in-person, in-school, and online program. Good to have you, Craig.
Thanks for having me.
Well, tell me about what you're doing now. You've been on before, and it's always so great because we get to talk about the importance of ACT. So what things do you see that we really need to be concerned about right now?
Well, you know, the ACT, you can't overemphasize the importance of the ACT to a high school student because that one little score that ranges anywhere from a 1 to a 36 can determine so much of the child's future. You know?
Isn't it amazing? They have a 4-point or a 4-point and above. If they don't get that score on that ACT, it just terribly reduces the amount of funds that are available to them.
Absolutely. You know, most colleges and admission and scholarship boards will not even look at a student unless they've hit a certain ACT score.
Yes.
So you could say the ACT is more important than their grade point average, than their class rank, than anything else that has a numerical value associated with the student. And so, you know, if you think about all of the time that high school students spend to get their high school diploma, to get that grade point average, to get that class rank, you know, they spend they might complete 28 courses, all the school time, everything they do just for that one number, their GPA, and yet colleges are going to look at that ACT and weigh it at least equally to that. But most students that I work with, they don't weigh it with that level of importance. They might consider it, if they're really being serious about the ACT, they might consider it to be an important midterm or important final. They don't realize that that one score has as much weight for their future as everything that they've been doing in high school combined.
It can be the difference in student loans and college being totally paid for.
Yeah, and what's more is that the ACT is testing the students' learning ability and the skills that they have that they need to get through college. So studies have shown that the higher the student's ACT score, the more likely they are to finish and get a college degree. So we can talk about scholarships and saving money on college, but there's also the fact that the average college graduate makes more than $1 million over the course of their lifetime than the average high school graduate.
Absolutely.
So when you look at that, yes, TOPS can save you $25,000 in tuition, but really this student, if they're more likely to get through college without financial woes and get all the way through to their degree, you know, with the learning skills that they need, then that opens them up to a whole new career, opens up to what they really want to do in their lives.
And that is what we really need to make sure that the students are aware of, that that ACT score is important if you want to go to vocational school, if you want to go to a junior college or to a university. It is not just for the university. Can you talk about that some?
Absolutely. You know, the ACT is getting used more and more. You know, let's say the student wants to be a teacher. Well, ACT scores can actually let the student skip some of those professional exams. Same with nursing.
Oh, really?
Students with certain ACT scores, depending on the nursing program, get to skip some of those eligibility tests that are normally required to do. So they can be on a track to become an RN much more quickly. You know, there's the TOPS Tech program, which if the student has a 17 on the ACT and a 2.5 grade point average, then the state will actually pay for the student to go through technical school.
Yes.
There was a study recently released by the Louisiana Workforce Commission that found that that there were about 10,000 jobs for people with technical degrees that stay unfilled every year. About 10,000 jobs get created, and there's no one in Louisiana to fill those needs. So although, and then on the flip side, we create about 5,000 more college graduates, four-year university graduates than we need. And so what's happening is we're graduating a lot of four-year university students who can't find work in Louisiana, have to go
Because they're
elsewhere.
going into the wrong fields.
Absolutely. And then what happens is that you've got a bunch of people coming into Louisiana for these high-paying technical
Yes.
jobs that no one in Louisiana is able to fulfill. So many students who, they say, I want to be a welder, I want to be a carpenter, I want to, there's a skilled profession, I want to be an electrician. There's many, I want to be a pipe fitter. These are very high-paying jobs.
Absolutely.
They don't realize that if they have the ACT score that they need, then they don't have to pay for that technical training.
Mm-hmm.
They can get it and, be part of the Louisiana workforce right here at home.
And I so often students don't even realize that that the monies are available through TOPS for them to go to vocational school.
Right.
I call it a well-kept secret.
That's true. It is a well-kept secret, although it's publicized good. But the other thing is that students tend to value scholarships less than parents, because a student has never lived on their own. So if I say, here's a scholarship, it'll pay for your housing, they're like, I've always had my housing. I don't know what that means.
So they don't know, they don't appreciate the significance of it.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
And so because of that, sometimes it's going to be the parent that's the driving force for the situation, for getting the scholarships, for getting that ACT score, and not necessarily the student. So you have to find other ways to motivate the student to make it happen.
Well, then we're hoping a lot of parents are listening today so that they will be able to relay this information, vital information, to their children, because that is so important.
Absolutely.
Yes. So tell me about the online program. That's a really neat one.
Absolutely. So if a student is short of what they need for a scholarship, let's say they need a 20 gives you a top scholarship, which means that the state will pay for, if you meet a few other eligibility requirements, the state will pay for in-state tuition. So if you're short of a 20, or let's say there's a specific scholarship you're trying to get, you can use the ACT Mastery program at home. We have an online program that basically acts as though, I've recorded a whole series of videos. These are the kind of lessons that I would be teaching if I was tutoring your student one-on-one.
Okay.
And we walk the student through everything that they need to know to master the ACT and improve their score and reach that level of scholarship eligibility. So, we have a full comprehensive program that goes on not only computers, but iPads, iPhones, Kindle devices, you name it. And they're able to get the prep that they need.
So you're saying, we've got to take a break here. And so when we get back, we're going to talk about all of the different availability of this online program. We'll be back in just a moment.
Sponsored by Prepare for the ACT with the online ACT Mastery Home Study Course. The broadcasting for this television program has been a service of Metro 21. Another Herzog Entertainment production. Do you want to work in films? Go to Herzog.com. Click on Jobs in the Film Industry. Signing up is free. Check us out online at Herzog.com. Go to BRB Network TV or Vision of Grace. Are you in an online community? Stay connected with Brian Herzog on Facebook. It's time to make the connections.
And welcome back to to Let's Talk About It. My guest is Craig Garing. He's the developer of the ACT Mastery in person, in school, and online program. And Craig, we were talking about the online program and how it can be downloaded to all of these different other kinds of phones. So tell me about that.
Well, you know, the online format is great for students because it keeps them engaged, keeps them interested. The videos are shot very similar to Khan Academy, which keeps students involved. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, we mentioned in the earlier segment, we talked about how sometimes the students are less motivated to prep for the ACT than their parents want them to be, because, you know, the parents want their scholarships to happen. The student is not necessarily motivated. If you're going to give someone a vitamin, it helps if it tastes good too. And so when the student downloads the online program and they get involved in it, they start to get hooked. We have little achievements they can earn. It has all the trappings of a game, so to speak. And so the student gets involved and they want to continue using it.
Okay. Now, there are, of course, 2,000 plus questions that are available. The practice ACT tests are there. What other things are available on that in that online program?
Well, we've created basically 6 courses in one. Because the ACT is in a variety of subject areas. So we treat upon the ACT English test. We provide several hundred practice questions as well as 3 full-length ACT English tests for them to take and practice on. We give the ACT Math Mastery Program with almost 400 practice questions in math, as well as, again, 3 full-length math tests. We have a full reading program to teach the students the reading strategies that they need, and also give them a dress rehearsal for the real ACT. There's 3 practice tests in each course module, and we have a science program, which helps the students improve their scientific reasoning abilities and their ability to read scientific passages. Last but not least is the writing program for those of the students who are taking the optional writing test on the ACT. And we have a full segment on test-taking strategies for those students who have a lot of test anxiety or are not able to deal with the standardized test format.
Now, that's a lot in that online program.
Yeah, we have a very comprehensive program.
It's
and
full.
Absolutely, and every month we're adding new content. We are continually refining the program to get even better results with the students.
And since it's online, it doesn't matter when they get that program, it's always going to be there for them as far as being able to download.
Absolutely.
That's
and
beautiful.
So when they start the program, you know, a lot of times the students will cram a lot before the test. You know, we want them to try to prep for a long time before. You know, really you should give your student about a year before the test to get maximum preparation in. But most students, even if you get the program for them a year, you know, they're not going to start it till a week before or even the day before. And so a lot of times the student will prep a lot, will get their results, will not be happy with that, you know, because they didn't put in the time. They only prepped for the week before or the day before. And then we see them doing a more serious study of the program.
When they have that reality check.
The wake-up call. That's right.
Yes. So what is the ideal time? I know we've had, you know, students probably as early as middle school enrolling in the different programs. What is an ideal time if you were talking to parents? When do you advise them to start preparing their child for the ACT?
Well, there's a program called Duke Tip, which gets middle school students to take the ACT. If your child is participating in Duke Tip, it's a great idea to get them involved in ACT prep at that age. Many 8th graders and 7th graders, particularly students who are, you know, feel very strongly about their college-bound trek and, you know, want to get prepared, can definitely start taking the ACT and preparing for it. ACT actually has a series of tests that are age-appropriate below 11th grade. So there are actually tests that students can take in middle school that are age-appropriate that start familiarizing the students with the ACT, but also give you a good idea as the parent, or you a good idea as the teacher, what, you know, the performance level of the student is, whether they're ahead, whether they're behind, what kind of help they need to be able to perform at the level that they need to be to you know, make their college dreams come true.
And then the earlier they start preparing, the greater the possibilities that their score will be at the point, because you've been able to gauge it along from middle school on into high school. So you always have a good idea as a parent of what that child's score is. And if you're wanting that score to be a 28 or a 30, then you can look at it and say, okay, here's where you are now. And so then you know how to gauge how long it could take for you to get to where you want to score.
Yes.
That score you're going to send in to the college that you're interested in.
Right, and that's very insightful. Actually, ACT has published a study that says that the biggest and most important predictor of how a student is going to perform on the ACT is based on their middle school performance levels. Meaning if a student gets behind in middle school, if they're not reading at the correct grade level or ahead of grade level in middle school, if they're missing those foundational skills, it's going to be very hard to play catch up in high school to get the student to where they are.
So how does a child know that he or she is not where they should be in middle school?
There's a number of assessments. There's a test called ACT Explore in 8th grade that Louisiana students take. And this test gives a predicted ACT score. It also points out what areas of deficiency the student might have, and it's not the kid's fault. It's not designed to make them feel bad or make them feel like they flunked. The whole idea is that if you know about the fire when it's on the match, it's a lot easier to deal with than if you know about the fire after your whole house is aflame.
Yes.
And so, knowing early on in middle school while you can still make improvements, what the strengths and weaknesses of your child's education are. You can plan for that. You can help them. An ounce of tutoring in middle school is worth a pound of tutoring in high school.
Yes, yes. And I see more and more that parents are getting tutoring for their children while they're still in elementary and middle school.
Yeah, that's the most crucial phase. If you you can still improve that reading level, which is one of the main determining factors of the ACT score is reading level.
And what should be the reading level of a child by the time that they're in high school to really do well on the ACT?
You need to be about 2 grade levels above reading level in order to perform to the best capacity on the ACT, which means that by 11th grade, you need to be reading at a college reading level or you're going to have trouble with that test.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a break here and we'll be back in just a moment.
Sponsored by Prepare for the ACT with the online ACT Mastery Home Study Course. The broadcasting for this television program has been a service of Metro 21. Another Herzog Entertainment production. Do you want to work in films? Go to Herzog.com. Click on Jobs in the Film Industry. Signing up is free. Check us out online at Herzog.com. Go to BRB Network TV or Vision of Grace. Are you in an online community? Stay connected with Brian Herzog on Facebook. It's time to make the connections.
Okay, when we left, we were talking about just what students need to really do well. And what are some of your suggestions?
Well, we touched on reading levels
Yes.
in the last segment. And, if there was one thing that parents fixed in their minds about what is going to make their child perform at a high level on the ACT and be able to get through college and be able to get that degree, it's reading level. Reading with that student often, reading at
Early.
early and at an age appropriate level, at the level that they need to read, starting as early as possible. One major detractor from reading is electronic entertainment. The computer, the TV, the Game Boy, the iPhone. You know, there are so many forms of canned entertainment.
Distractions.
Distractions is what they all add up to. And all of these entertainment industries, they're built around the premise of we're more interesting than a book. Yeah, that's why they exist to begin with.
Yes.
And so the students that I have met who have had superior reading levels, who have really had a high level of performance, had some form of limitation on their electronics intake.
Yes.
Their
The
TV
time.
time.
Yes.
Either it was you only get 30 minutes a day, or
It's
you don't get
being
any
monitored.
during the school day, because otherwise a student's just going to go for it. I mean, we've all gone on Netflix and gotten,
Yeah.
20 seasons of, Office, and we all think it's a good idea at the time, watching 20 seasons of a television show. They're just made for you to keep watching them. And,
Absolutely.
and students are going to do the same thing. And unless you have that discipline in the household to get them to read. Once you make it so that there's nothing more interesting happening than reading a book, the student will read and they'll come to appreciate it. But reading's more like a steak dinner than an ice cream sundae. And if they're always getting the ice cream sundae, they're always getting the Facebook and the movies
Yes.
and the games and all this, then they're not ever going to try the steak. And go ahead.
So parents, I want you to listen to this, how important it is that your child is a strong reader and that you cannot read and play all of these computer games and watch TV. It's one or the other.
Right. And, another important concept is that it isn't enough that your child can read.
Read with
you understand?
understanding.
So, like that, a lot of parents, you have this first push and you're like, okay, in elementary school, we're going to get you to the point where you read. And then we're going to get you to the point where you read with understanding. There's a big difference between that, though, and being able to read a college-level text with understanding smoothly, quickly. A lot of students drop out of college because the assignments that they get, the research projects, these different things that, basically they say, here's the book, kid, read it on your own, we're going to give you a test. If you don't have that high reading level, you're going to feel lost at sea. It's a big reason why students have difficulty in college. So you can curb that tide. You can actually make improvements now to your child's reading level in elementary school that'll carry with them through middle school. And as we said, that'll predict their performance in high school. It's really the earlier the better, in terms of reading. And then let's talk about math, which is another very important aspect of the ACT. The math test scores respond very well to tutoring. But one thing that is frequently lacking with students is their mental math skills, meaning that it's very difficult for them to perform mathematical operations very quickly. They're reliant on their calculators oftentimes, and so even the basics of multiplication, we've had many high school students doing multiplication tables on their fingers or having to rely on a calculator just to figure those basics out.
For some reason, they're not memorizing those multiplication tables. I remember being in school, that was mandatory, that you memorize at least 1 to 12.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and they need to be able to memorize them and use them very quickly.
Absolutely.
On the ACT, there are very few math problems that are just straight math. They're almost all word problems. So instead of saying, what's 3 times 5, the question would more likely say, you have 3 shirts, they each cost $5. How much total does it cost?
Yes.
Except they're much more advanced and sophisticated
Sure.
than that example. So because of that, the student has to do math and figure out the word problem at the same time. And if they're not used to doing the math, they can't.
And they have a vocabulary problem.
And they have a vocabulary problem. Then they can't do working out the word problem because it's too many things at once. It's like texting and driving.
Yes.
Your brain's only equipped to do one new thing at a time. You can do a lot of things. You can sing a song. You can be a one-man band as long as everything that you're doing, playing the harmonica, playing the guitar, playing the piano, singing, is something that you've practiced over and over and over again. But the moment you have to do something new, Like if you say, hey, guy with your one-man band, I want you to also sing this new song and I've never told you the words before,
Yeah.
well, then you're going to not be able to play because that requires your concentration. That's why you can't text and drive. And likewise, students who have to concentrate on what 8 times 7 is aren't able to solve the ACT math problems because there's just too much going on. So, you know, one thing that we work on the ACT Mastery Program is getting the student so good at that basic mental math, so good at doing those basics, that they then have the attention that they need to put it to the real issue at hand, which is the word problems and the tricky nature that they appear on the ACT.
If there were some things you could tell parents that are essential for their students to be strong and be ready to have that GPA, have those ACT scores that they would like, so they do not have to pay for their kids to go to college or for their kids to have to get student loans, what would it be?
Well, again, I can't emphasize enough how reading level feeds into this, you know, and having a culture in your family and with your child where excellence is required, excellence is expected. You know, one thing you have to consider is that the ACT is a standardized test, which means that your child is compared to every other child across the nation. That's what colleges want to know. They want to know, is your child better than all these other kids that they're considering
Yes.
accepting? And so if you want your child to get accepted as a student academically, they have to be better. And better doesn't mean meeting expectations. You know, better means exceeding expectations.
Excellent.
And to do that, they need that foundation, not only of reading, but they need that foundational understanding of that. When they walk into a classroom, teacher says, jump 5 feet, you jump 6 feet. And that is something that starts at home and that a child can learn. And a student actually thrives much better when they're doing that rather than just trying to get by. And that's the student that's going to do well in the ACT.
Thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you for having me.
You're always so informative, and it makes such a difference. And so, parents, hopefully you were listening and watching this. And Craig, I should say, made a perfect score on the ACT and the SAT. So he is a great person to be able to give you this information. We'll see you the next time on Let's Talk About It.
Sponsored by Prepare for the ACT with the online ACT Mastery Home Study Course. Do you want to work in films? Go to Herzog.com. Click on Jobs in the Film Industry. Signing up is free.